This and every episode of REKT Podcast is brought to you by Beaksy Exchange, an upcoming cryptocurrency exchange built in collaboration with One Market Data. Beaksy is bringing legacy finance speed, power, and sophistication to crypto for the first time. With 225,000 transactions per second per pair, comparable to NASDAQ, 15 order types on day one, with 25 order types on full rollout, and a dedicated customer support team, Beaksy is setting itself apart from the competition. Check out Beaksy today at Beaksy.com and pre-register today at Beaksy.com/registration to get your free Beaksy Exchange tokens. That's Beaksy.com, BEAXY.com.
Hi, I'm Marc Weinstein, and this is REKT.
Before we get to our interview with Marc Weinstein, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our friends at Honeyminer. Honeyminer is back with some exciting news. They are now supporting Linux with Honeyminer Max. It is the most profitable Linux miner on the market, compatible with Ubuntu 16.04, Ubuntu 18.04, and CentOS 7. Honeyminer Max is paying out market value plus 10%, making it, again, the most profitable Linux miner in the world. Payouts every 2 hours directly to your computer, 10% greater than open market earnings. Honeyminer is awesome with their one-click install mining software that helps you mine Bitcoin directly to your computer with the click of a button. Sound cool? Visit honeyminer.com/labs. That's honeyminer.com/labs, or follow them on Twitter at @GetHoneyMiner. Hello and welcome to REKT Podcast. I am Bunchu alongside my esteemed colleague and co-host Crypto Chamber. Chamber, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Long weekend here in Canada. You know, the government gave us an extra day, for the year off, and that is celebrated in mid-February. It's called Family Day. I have no idea what to do. There's no traditions involved. The guilt is to hang out with my kids and my wife. So that's what I did today. We played some Clue. Oh yeah, I won too.
Nice.
It was
who did it?
It was Colonel Mustard with the wrench in the ballroom. So it was a solid.
Good old Colonel Mustard.
Fucking classic Colonel Mustard.
Unbelievable.
Well, most of America has a holiday today too. It's President's Day. If you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
I did not have off today, so I'm actually podcasting on company time, so don't know hopefully no one knows my real identity. And we have an awesome guest with us today, Marc Weinstein, principal of Wave Financial, which is a crypto investment and asset management firm. You may also know him from the Netflix Fyre Festival movie. Marc, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, thanks. Also celebrating President's Day out here.
That's it, we got nothing but respect for our presidents. Is that the saying?
Yeah, don't know how to celebrate this day either, so I'm trying to figure it out.
So Chamber, do you have any traditions for Family Day?
No, none. I think it's only been a holiday for like 6 years, 5-6 years. So
that's enough time for tradition.
Yeah, I mean, I think just hang out with your family. It's mid-February, so I mean, there's not much you can really do. Just make. I made blueberry pancakes this morning. Just chill out and hang out with your fam.
It's a good time. Like a good day to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, let's get rolling right into it here. So, quick shout out to our friend and former guest of the podcast, Brecky, for putting us in touch with Marc. They go way back and were able to put us in touch with Marc. So thanks, Brecky. We appreciate it.
Brecky von Bitcoin.
Yeah, Brecky von Bitcoin.
From the noble Bitcoin family.
Thanks, Crypto Brecky.
That's
AKA
right.
Jason.
Just throwing him right under the bus. That's so funny. So, I actually, when I was excited when we heard you were going to be coming on. One, because I had just watched all of the documentaries on the Fyre Festival on Netflix and Hulu. Actually, I never thought it would be something I was into. I didn't follow it too much while it was going on, and then I watched the Netflix documentary, and the same exact day I watched the Hulu documentary because I was fascinated by the entire thing. So, and then Chamber said, "Hey, we're gonna have Marc on. He's super into crypto." So I was like, "Wow, that's pretty awesome." So tell us how you got into crypto to begin with.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm sure anyone that's watched the documentary and sees music festival consultant under my name is like, okay, that's a weird
it's a great job.
Crypto entry point. Yeah, it was a great job. Just not that particular job. But anyways, yeah, so crypto. So worked in the financial services industry and investment banking at Jefferies and Morgan Stanley for 2 years. And I studied finance undergrad at Wharton coming up through the financial crisis. And basically that shaped my views on economics. And, everything they teach at Wharton and a lot of undergrad economic schools is Keynesian. But after we saw kind of the collapse of our financial system or near collapse, there was a ton of monetary easing that happened, and unprecedented printing of money across the board, across governments, across the globe. So I started kind of diving into an alternate view of economics, the Austrian school, read Human Action by Ludwig von Mises, and kind of was hooked. And so after doing banking for 2 years, we're going through this period where the central banks are just printing and printing and printing. And my partner and I had a sense that we were going to enter a period of massive inflation in the US dollar. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but at the time, Bill Gross at PIMCO was also talking about, we need to worry about inflation. And then you had Ben Bernanke and Paul Krugman on the other side saying, we need more printing because we're going to end up in a deflationary spiral otherwise. So I started a company that had the mission to protect investors against inflation, called TINCO. And we created a private market alternative to inflation-linked securities issued by governments, which are called TIPS in the U.S., Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. And I worked on that for about a year. And essentially what it was almost like an asset-backed token, although I didn't really know much about tokens at the time. Asset-backed by consumer durables like toilet paper and canned foods and things like that actually make up the inflation index. And I worked on that for about a year thinking, really smart, whatever, but was competing with banks in one of the most aggressive periods for credit in the history of the United States. And, we couldn't compete. And also I was an asset manager with no track record trying to create an entirely new investment vehicle for pension funds and insurance companies to invest in. So that was an uphill battle. But at the tail end, I was introduced to Bitcoin, and, the digital gold thesis or sound money thesis really resonated with me. And so I invested in Bitcoin at the end of 2013. 4 months later, the price went from 600 to 200 because of Mt. Gox. And I basically said, okay, this is either going to be a zero or it's going to be 1,000x when it takes some meaningful percentage of the gold market cap. And I forgot about it. Fast forward to early 2017, started thinking about it again. This is actually right around the time of Fyre, thought about investing more dollars into Bitcoin, and then the price doubled and I was like, oh, I missed it. And then the price doubled again and I was like, oh, I missed it. But I took the Bitcoin that I had invested in, which was not a lot, whatever savings I had left after my first startup failed. And I started buying other tokens. So I bought Ethereum, participated in a couple of ICOs, and was so deep down the rabbit hole at that point that I knew I had to be full-time in the space.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty awesome story. So from there, how did you get full-time in the space? What was the jump that took you from, investing into, Bitcoin and tokens and things like that to, all right, I'm full-time. Here's where I'm going to find my niche and what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think it went when I moved from just researching and reading everything that I could possibly get my hands on the space to actually participating in the community. The community in Los Angeles is amazing. And it's this incredible mix of, finance professionals who are kind of your crypto incrementalists all the way to your OG crypto anarchists, who want to change the world through cryptocurrency. And I started attending meetups and conferences, and it was just the most eclectic and interesting group of people that I've ever met. And there was no shortage of entertainment and interesting conversation. And after a few of these meetups, I saw a gentleman named Brock Pierce speak multiple times, and introduced myself to him at a digital LA event in downtown LA, and he connected me to a company that he started called DNA. I went to DNA in November of 17, kind of starry-eyed and bushy-tailed, just really excited to see some of the new ICOs that were presenting there. And I literally sat in a corner and was like, I'm not going to leave this place until someone kicks me out. And so I worked there for a couple of months until I met David Seymour, who started Wave Financial. He's a venture capitalist for the last over 20 years now. I think he started in 95, and he founded a company called Wavemaker Partners, which is an LA-based early stage VC that manages around 300 million AUM across multiple funds. And in 16, David told his partners, guys, I'm obsessed with this crypto thing. I'm going all in. And they were like, okay, whatever you want. And he started the first crypto-focused fund at Wavemaker called Wavemaker Genesis. And that's the vehicle at which I'm a principal, and it sits under the Wave Financial umbrella.
Interesting. So what exactly do you do in that particular job?
So my role as a principal in the fund is to analyze new investment opportunities. So I like to tell people that I get paid to learn in an industry where literally every single day there's something new to digest. And, I feel like I'm drinking from the fire hose. And I don't know about you guys, but it's information overload in this space.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a generalist in early stage investing in crypto. And so that touches pretty much every industry you can think of. And then you have to, also think about the entire stack in all those industries. So you have layer 1, 2, and beyond. And there's no shortage of something to learn every single day. And I feel super lucky to be sitting where I'm sitting. I get to meet some of the brightest minds in the space that are building the tech. I get to meet other investors, community leaders in the space regularly, and just trying to keep my finger on the pulse of where this crazy crypto world is going.
It's pretty intense. There is so much to learn. I'm finding myself, I have a similar story where I just kind of, started down the rabbit hole and never stopped. And I think, Chamber, I think that's kind of why we do this podcast, right? Is to keep learning from every single person we have on here.
100%. I fell down a hole. I actually just fell, free fall down a hole. And yeah, to keep myself entertained instead of, depressed, we figured a podcast would be a good way to talk about stuff and to learn stuff. But no, it's been fun. We actually just had, you'd mentioned Brock Pierce. We just had Brock Pierce on, was it last week? It was Valentine's Day or the week before.
2 weeks ago, actually, with Brock, and then last week with Crystal, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure Brock was talking about Gox Rising and the work he's doing there.
Absolutely.
And Crystal with Sense.
Yeah.
I'm super, super appreciative and grateful to Brock for bringing me, full-time into this space. I don't think anyone can really imagine the number of people that he's inspired through his talks to kind of really take this on full time. So
it's pretty crazy. I went back and was re-listening to the show because I was looking for a clip to make a video of or whatever, and I texted my brother. I'm like, I want to run through a fucking wall when I hear this guy talk. I'm ready to go.
He's one of the best public speakers I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I was actually super impressed with Crystal too. You never know what to expect, right? And all of a sudden, she's this genius in her own right. You know what I mean? It's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to learn from both of them.
And that's cool. So that's a pretty awesome crypto genesis story. So let's talk a little bit about your crypto REKT stories. So let's start with the crypto REKT stories. So you get into crypto, and I mean, you kind of mentioned a little bit where you thought you might have missed the boat after you really were getting into it in 2017. So do you have any great crypto REKT stories for the people out there?
Oh man, too many to count. After you get that first win in an ICO, it gets your blood pumping.
Sure.
And you could think that you're smart or something and get ahead of yourself. And of course, when everything's going up, it's easy to pick investments. And then we all know what happened, from January of 18 until today. And so, I've definitely
until literally today. Like, it's been good today.
Yeah, it's true. It's been pretty good today. I had a friend who told me, you should buy ETH before ETH Denver. It's gonna pump. And
that's so funny.
Look, I didn't listen. I'm not a trader. I don't claim to be able to call tops and bottoms of markets. I think we will still have more pain over the coming months, but I'm long-term in this space. I'm more of a 5 to 10 year time horizon. There's a lot of tech that needs to get built. Usability needs to be solved. I think I'm just trying to move away from my REKT story right now.
No way. You gotta give us one.
Oh man. Do people name names on this thing? Or,
oh yeah. I mean, well, you go anywhere you want with it, Mark. You go anywhere you want with it.
Well, yeah. So I had a win in an ICO called Wax in December of I guess December of 17.
17, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a Christmas present, and then and I'm still impressed with with what the Wax team are building. Right, they're ahead of the curve on gaming applications and digital assets that you can trade across games using their Opskins platform. But that was, on paper, it was a nice win. And then I took some of those winnings and I invested in probably too many other ICOs, and
especially if it was December 17 and January 2018.
Yeah, and then you're locked up for 6 months, and all of a sudden you're just watching the market go down. So I guess for me, getting REKT was not taking real money off the table in January 18 and just watching literally every single asset in my portfolio go down, 80-90% over the course of the year. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say I like to think I was smart enough to take my principal off the table, but probably could have done a bit more. But again, who knows what happens over the next 5 years? We'll see.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all think that in the next 5 years we will come out of this ahead. But I hope so.
I hope so.
But yeah, that's interesting. So I had a follow-up question from before where you were kind of talking about the different types of crypto personalities and philosophical beliefs from the people that you had met in these LA meetups. Where do you find yourself? Like, where do you fall on that spectrum of, in the crypto realm?
Yeah, it's evolving. It's ever evolving. I think, when I started in the crypto space, it was about non-sovereign currency, right? And so in that way, I guess I was falling more towards the crypto anarchist side, and I really believed at the time that we were going to enter a period of outsized inflation or potentially hyperinflation in the US dollar because, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet has expanded so drastically. And where does it all end, right? I'm not sure that there's a kind of easy way to unwind sovereign debt without another sovereign, lending to you, like China, for example. Mm-hmm. And we see what's happening today. So, but as my first startup kind of showed me, these, economic structural deficiencies, let's call them, can perpetuate for much longer than we ever imagine. Systems have a way of kind of surviving. And so, I'm not sure that an event like that is imminent in the near future, but I do hold Bitcoin, as a hedge against something like that. And I think it's the perfect vehicle to hedge against an event like that. And that's why I believe everyone should have some Bitcoin in their portfolio. But, over time and kind of as I've entered the venture space, I realized that, we really do need enterprise adoption to drive use of crypto going forwards. And I don't know that it's going to be ethos driven, meaning that it's not enough for, tens of thousands of individuals around the world who advocate for decentralizing the internet, right? Who advocate for sound money, to say every other person should invest in this, because frankly, the average consumer just doesn't care. And we need to get to a place where the UX UI of the decentralized web is equal to or greater than that of current centralized technology. And if that doesn't happen, then ethos enough isn't going to drive us there, right? So I love to look at projects that are really hyper-focused on that. One company, Veil, that just launched using composability across Augur, 0x, and ETH, building a prediction market with a slick UX, I think is a good step in the right direction. My friends at Dharma Lever have created another product for crypto lending focused on the user experience. And until it gets to a point where it's as convenient, kind of one click, right, to make a transaction, as convenient as using other tech that we're used to, I don't think we're going to see mass adoption. So I've become more of a crypto incrementalist over time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I asked Crystal the same thing last week, is like, how do we bridge the gap between, okay, obviously there's a small, relatively small tunnel vision group of all of us saying, crypto's the answer, but how do we take that and make it the, mainstream where, it's our parents or our grandparents and why should people care about it? Because I think at this point you hit the nail on the head. They don't have a reason to care, right? So if they don't share these kind of beliefs, they, from the start, like, they don't even know they need to care,
I think what happens is it takes a lot of these bull runs, right? Like the last bull run got you and me, kind of maybe like
guilty.
Yeah, right. I mean,
yeah.
And it's tiers, right? Maybe the first run gets the more technical people, you know what I mean, your devs and that kind of thing, and then guys like you and me are maybe more like, yeah, we kind of know that stuff. We're young enough. Where we can kind of see, maybe we're tired of the old ways of, the old financial institutions. But I mean, for a perfect example, I set I'm obviously into crypto. My wife, not that into crypto. I downloaded her a wallet the other day and sent her a couple of Ethereum just to hold on her wallet, just to see. I'm like, well, just check it out. And obviously, it was pretty good timing because
well done, nice timing.
Pumped like
someone's a traitor.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, "Is this what happens every day?" I'm like, "The opposite happens every day." I'm like, "This does not happen every day." But I mean, yeah, she had like, she looks like, obviously because I deal a lot in the U.S. I'm always looking at it in U.S. dollars, but she's looking at Canadian dollars. So the number is even it's even greater. I mean, like, yeah, she's like, in one day how much it went up by? I'm like, yeah, I think I have an idea.
That's so
but
funny.
But I think it's things like that, like the look on her face when she saw how much it started going up. She now I could see her reading. She's on her phone and she's checking out, crypto blogs and stuff like that. Like she's starting to get into it, and I think that's what it takes. The opposite, kind of kicks people out of the space.
Yeah.
But some sort of positive momentum will hopefully bring more people in the next wave.
I agree. I mean, I think, Carlota Perez wrote this book called Technological Revolutions in Financial Capital, and I think it's a must read for anyone in the crypto space. it just talks about whenever you have a technological revolution, there's kind of this natural evolution in financial capital chasing it. And you have this frenzy phase where prices start to increase dramatically, and financial capital basically far exceeds the productive capacity of the underlying tech, and it runs away with itself. But these kind of frenzy periods and bubbles serve to bring new people into the space. And so new entrepreneurs, right, that see the money making opportunity and say, okay, what can I build here? How can I participate? And then there's a subsequent crash, which clears out a lot of the BS that comes from those bubble periods, as we've seen, but then it's sticky for some, right, who just get it for the long term. And so it's exactly what you just described. The problem is when we have these kind of steep bubble, price drops like that, I can't imagine retail investors getting back into space. Like if you think about Thanksgiving 18 or 17,
Yep.
right, the conversations that people were having. And then I'm sure if you went back Thanksgiving 18 and you had told your friends and family you have to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they did, I don't even know if they were coming here Thanksgiving.
Right, exactly.
So that's the challenge. Price in and of itself is an interesting incentive, but there needs to be more than just that. We need to be able to kind of use these things, and I think what you did is great. Getting it into your wife's hands, right, so that she could start to play with it and see how it works.
Yeah, but I honestly just gave her future lawyer money. Like, that's all. She's like, oh, it's 2020 and now it's $10,000. I'm like, oh, okay, I can go get that lawyer now.
It's pretty funny. Actually, I did the opposite this weekend. I was having a conversation with my fiance, and she was asking me like some of these questions about Bitcoin, just from like, and I went the other way, and I kind of put the fear of God in her. I went the financial crisis route and went the scare tactic way, and she was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. I'm like, yeah, I know. So,
there's both sides of the animal spirits, man.
Yeah,
greed
totally.
and fear.
That's so funny. All right, so let's move on to, I think, what Chamber is really chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Let's
people fast forwarded already through this.
No. That was some really awesome stuff.
I think a lot of people, before we get into this, I think a lot of people will be very impressed with the level of
100%.
crypto-ness that you brought. But it's funny. We had, I don't even know how, I think I was talking to one of my sisters, and she's like, oh, did you see like this? We talk about what to watch on Netflix once in a while. And she's like, oh, we just watched this great documentary, Fyre. And I'm like, oh, it's funny you say that. One of the guys from that show is going to be on our show. And they think I have a podcast, like 3 people are listening to it.
And really, it's double.
It's
that.
at least twice that amount.
There are dozens,
upwards of
fans.
Dozens fans.
Yeah.
But
Big numbers.
Her face when she found out that you were going to be on the show was just like, oh, we got like the normies are going to listen to this show. I think we'll get some normies. My dad even called afterwards. He's like, hey, I heard that the Fyre guy's going to be on your show. I'm like, hey. He kept calling it the what did he call it? He didn't call it Fyre. It was
Fry.
Fry. It's exactly what
Everybody
he was calling it.
Anyone 40 and above calls it fry.
All right, so we're gonna tie this into the real life REKT story. So we always ask our guests to share a real life REKT story. We've heard, some pretty crazy stories. I have a feeling this one is one of the most interesting that we're going to hear. Chamber, you wanna start it off here by asking any questions particularly?
Yeah, I think when you're telling a story, make sure I just want to know what the timeline is. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, how long were you actually emotionally invested in this project, kind of thing?
It's hard because I'm not as good a storyteller as Chris Smith, who did the documentary.
Right.
People who have seen it kind of, I think, got a pretty good understanding of the story. I agree the timeline is a little bit skewed, so that's kind of interesting to share. But basically, I was introduced to Billy in March of 2017, probably like the second or third week in March. A friend of mine who's at a venture capital fund in New York had submitted a term sheet to invest in Fyre. And I think you'd be surprised at the number of kind of the level of interest from some major VCs in investing in this company. Later, as we discovered, partially because the numbers, were faked in the investment documents.
Right.
But, say what you will about Billy, he was a good storyteller. So, I connected with him kind of middle of March and was flown out to the Bahamas the first weekend in April. It kind of overlapped. It was like March 30th-ish. And I met Billy, and I was, we had a conversation about getting involved. My understanding was they needed help with production. The festival was about a month away, 4 weeks away, and they needed some help. And I had, after my first startup, which I talked about, I kind of backed into the music industry. I helped a company called Prime Social Group raise money in 2013 and was like, you know what? I'm sick of all this finance stuff. It's boring. Music is actually the business of fun, and it makes sense to me, and it's simple. And so I became an operating partner at Prime Social Group, which is still operating today. We do about 200 shows a year in the Midwest in cities you've probably never heard of. And then I started my own festival called 90s Fest in New York.
Which sounds like a baller festival.
It was great, man, and we can talk about that one as well. But I've also been wrecked many more times than Fyre, so I know this is the story that people want to hear, but we have other war stories as well. And so my friend who was looking at investing kind of thought that I could support in production, and obviously the rest is kind of history. I did my best, and we solved a lot of problems. There were some really good people working on the production staff, some of whom you meet in the two documentaries. But ultimately some problems are just too big to solve. And, sometimes you only have one reasonable solution. But when people are so invested in something emotionally, financially, with their reputations, et cetera, it's really challenging to make that decision to not move forward.
Sure. I mean, the stakes were gigantic. I mean, there was a lot. It's not like, hey, let's go to, let's drive to New York City for the weekend and go to this festival. It was, hey, let's fly to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
The stakes for people going to the festival were gigantic. So, at what point were you just like, this is not going to work? Like what was the moment?
Yeah. There were many moments throughout the course of, my month on this island where I was like, there's no way this is going to work. Why am I here? And then I have to admit, just being honest, there were moments when I was like, maybe we can pull this off. Right. And I think that's what happens when you're stuck on an island with 20 event producers that are just working day in and day out to try to make something happen. There's this like cohesion, we're all rowing in the same direction, like never give up. That kind of mindset. And, I would say the time when I really thought it was over was about a week and a half to the festival, and our caterer pulled out.
Oh.
And so we had no food. And everyone was like, okay, this is done. Like, we did our best. You don't have food. You don't have a festival.
Yeah.
And a day later, Andy, who's in the documentary, everyone's favorite character, flies...
Is that that's
the
water
meme?
one?
That's the water meme.
He's the payment alternative to crypto,
right?
Andy payments. There's a funny meme about that. But he actually he's a seasoned event producer, and he flew to Nassau, and within a day of our caterer having canceled, he had pulled in a new food supplier.
Wow!
And of course, one was Steven Starr Catering, which is like upper echelon kind of fine dining. And the other was, a Bahamian culinary company, right? That's not fine dining. And this is how you go from, 5-star to cheese sandwich. But, I think one of the areas that was the major failure of the festival was, we have a production staff that's working to solve problems and to try to make whatever experience could happen possible. But the marketing had been so aggressive from the beginning, and the messaging was never changed. So the right thing to do when Steven Starr pulls out would have been to say, okay, we're updating all of our guests that this is the new food option, right? Especially when you're sending out emails, please load dollars onto our RFID bracelets 1 week out to try to get some kind of working capital to fund new expenses. But the production staff is not sending out these marketing emails, and we have no idea what's being discussed with guests. But like, the right thing is, hey, our caterer pulled out. This is the new food option, right? And then give the guest the opportunity to say, this isn't what I paid for. And of course, that never happened.
So would you say that that's kind of the biggest failure, was the setting of that expectation once you kind of knew that that's not what was going to be provided?
I mean, I think that's one of the failures, right? Honest communication from the get-go would have probably saved this thing. I think the real failure was, you have an opportunity to postpone this festival. You've been advised multiple times by multiple parties that there's not enough time to produce it the way that you want to, and by some to produce it at all. And, canceling maybe isn't an option, but you can say, hey, we're going to do this 3 months later. It's in the Bahamas, right? Beautiful weather year round. You have the agreement with the venue. Also, the weekend that Fyre was meant to be produced, the first weekend, was the busiest time of year on that island. It was during the National Regatta. And so we had a second weekend. And the site, at the very least, albeit much different than what had been promised to guests, would have been built, right? And so,
interesting.
You could have postponed to weekend 2. We were about, I think, 3 days away from having, the full site built. And then, of course, it rained, and that destroyed a lot of what had been built already. And so the biggest failure was not, allowing your pride to get away from you and not postponing. The second biggest failure was not communicating with guests. And of course, behind all of that, coming out of it, discovering how much just outright fraud was involved by Billy, at the top, I think, is kind of what's shocking to people, and why one of the reasons why they're so interested in this story.
I think, you've watched the documentary. Have you?
Yeah, it gives me PTSD.
I was going to ask that first. I was going to ask if I'm sure it does.
What gets me anxious?
Yeah, it makes me so anxious.
What was your thought on how the documentary was done, put together, all that kind of stuff?
So, you guys asked about timeline, right? I did Fyre kind of May 17, and I was off the island probably a week after the first guests, kind of trying to clean up some of the mess. So, call it May, I want to say 15th, 2017. I met with Chris in September, either end of September or early October 2017, at the Vice headquarters in Venice. And, that's at this point, I guess, a year and a half ago, almost. And I think I was one of his first interviews. And at the time, I don't think he really thought there was a story there. A lot of people kind of questioned, why is this interesting? And I agree, right? It's just people say, oh, it's just a bunch of rich kids that got what they deserved or whatever. And the schadenfreude of seeing rich people, suffer, I think, is one of the other reasons why this thing went so viral. But I think Chris did a really excellent job portraying the story. And, I was personally shocked by a couple of things in the documentary, specifically what happened after, which...
That was where I was going with it.
Yeah, you're under investigation by the FBI, and then you're outright frauding people again, but this time you want someone to film it?
Right.
Seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, exactly. And, when I spoke to Chris, one of the things that I would have liked more of in the Netflix version, which I think Hulu ended up capturing, was kind of the broader trend of social media, and its role in all of this. I think part of the reason why it wasn't so featured in Netflix was because of this extra footage of Billy that was captured, which added another 20 or 30 minutes to the doc of this really is a character shot, right? To see someone, doing that in the position that he was in is just, you can't even believe it. It's shocking.
That's pretty wild. I was fascinated.
I have two questions about the festival. Two ways that I'm thinking it could have been saved, or had these happen, would it have been saved? So do you think if it hadn't rained, the few days leading up to it, do you think it would have succeeded, or at least succeeded to a point where we wouldn't have any documentaries? You know what I mean? Like, it may have been like a failure, or like, do you think the rain was just kind of like the last nail in the coffin?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was. It's really hard to say exactly how things would have turned out, but a number of challenges arose because of the rain, right? And any good festival should have a rain plan, anyways, and it shows you just how behind we were. Yeah, just how behind we were. But it rained. It didn't just rain like slowly. It just came like pouring thunder and lightning rain the night before the festival at like 2 a.m.
It's crazy.
It was crazy, right? So there was no chance that any of this could have gone through. Now, at the time, I think there were around 1,100 guests that were supposed to arrive on that Thursday, and there were enough tents for the guests that were arriving and enough beds. So had they gone directly to the site, picked up their bags immediately at the site,
right?
Had our hospitality staff not been stuck on the cruise ship that we sourced 7 days before the festival because of the weather, and they're greeting them and directing them. There were around 40 hospitality staff that could not get off of this cruise ship. I had sourced the cruise ship 7 days before the festival because we didn't have enough housing offsite for staff, for investors, for influencers, for press.
And that's when we were talking about shipping back and forth from the cruise ship to the island at night and stuff.
Yeah, it was tendering. The boat was tendering. The cruise ship was 20. It was the best option we had, but it was exactly 20 feet too long for the dock. And we were trying with the Coast Guard to be able to dock it. And they just couldn't. They wouldn't allow us to do it. It was just too dangerous to try to bring it into the dock,
right.
20 feet too long. And so, we were tendering using lifeboats to the cruise ship. And that's obviously not luxury. And when the seas are rough, we had staff staying there because there weren't enough beds for staff. And the last shipment of equipment never came to the island, not because of weather, but because it wasn't paid for. And that included walkie-talkies, right, for us to communicate as a production staff. So the communication was all happening via cell phone. Cell service is bad. Phones are dying. You don't have walkie-talkies. That's a big issue.
Yeah.
All of the air mattresses that we had sourced, which was included in the head count for beds offsite, never came. So could the festival have happened? It might have happened for the first day of festival goers. I certainly don't think that it could have supported the full capacity of all of the people that were coming. I think we would have had to cut it at a certain number. On a positive note, Luca, who's in the documentary from Unreal Productions, his team worked all day, all night to build 2 stages, and there was music on day one. That's one thing people don't realize. There was
interesting.
There was house music. A group of DJs under the label Zero were performing even before the main acts pulled out. I think the main acts pulled out also because there was not enough money to pay them the remaining fee. And acts, especially of that caliber, are very particular about getting paid up front fully.
Of course, yeah.
So, in that regard, I'm not sure there was enough money to pay the acts. And so would they have performed? Probably not. And then you have a bunch of people on an island without the acts that were promised. And so it was going to be a disaster. There was no way for it to go through completely. But I think it would have been slightly more manageable.
So I guess the second part would be the RFID bracelets. If we had swapped those for phone apps that had cryptocurrency on it, do you think that would have saved it? The whole time I'm watching that documentary, I'm waiting for, and then they pivoted to some
Fyre
sort of utility
ICO.
token.
Yeah.
And it never happened. It never happened. A Fyre token would have been terrific.
Oh my God, Firecoin.
Could you imagine?
I made a joke in a Telegram chat the other day about that, and someone was like, "Seriously?" I think it was like a major fund manager. Like, it's not outside of the realm of believability that they might have pursued doing a token.
I was waiting for it the whole time. It never came up.
I mean, a lot of ICOs definitely remind me of Fyre.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that was what I was going to say. I was going to say, being in the space, That's what I was thinking watching this documentary. Talk a little bit about, kind of what, maybe draw a comparison or two to, what people should look out for in crypto to help themselves not fall, prey to something similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. If it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? Like, that's just such wise advice that many of us never take, myself included. You see kind of the bright, shiny object and we're drawn to it. And then also there's always FOMO. If you're driven by FOMO, that's another potential red flag. Fyre was successful in selling tickets because people wanted to live a lifestyle that they felt they weren't living otherwise. They wanted to partake in this once in a lifetime opportunity to live like an Instagram model or an influencer, or to be with them. And, ICOs in the same way, people might have, sat on the sideline and trusted their intuition that a lot of these were vaporware. But when you see people making 20x returns or 100x returns on their quote unquote investment into an ICO, how many of those before you say, you know what, I'm just going to roll the dice on this? And so FOMOing into something is never a good idea. Obviously, what Fyre had was great marketing and not a lot of substance. And I think that there are some ICOs that have this as well. You can compare the influencers to the advisors on some of the white papers of these ICOs. Oh, this advisor's there, it's going to win, right? And what is the advisor's role? Did they just receive some tokens to put their name on it? So that's definitely something to look out for. I think, the ICO boom is done. I don't think people will have to worry about that going forwards, I hope. I think we've come down to more rational, investment opportunities. Valuations have come down. There's been enough pain that I don't see retail investors coming back into this space strictly for price movements in the foreseeable future. But yeah, I think those are some red flags.
All right, one more question, and then we'll move on.
No,
I just was Googling this morning, and I saw this article, which just made me laugh. Ja Rule teases plans for reboot after Fyre Festival disaster.
Holla, holla.
Oh my God. What's the saying? There's no such thing as bad press.
Right. How does that headline make you feel? I'm watching you on the Hangout and your skin is crawling.
I mean, come on.
Here's the quote. He said, "It's the most iconic festival that never was. So I have plans to create the iconic music festival, but you didn't hear it from me." And that's a video on TMZ.
Yeah.
Big deal. You didn't hear from me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the reality is that there are luxury music festivals that exist that are kind of small and bougie and in a tourist environment and have big acts. Fyre exists already. There's probably like 5 to 10 Fyres, right? Without even, trying to think of names. There's a festival called Onda Linda in Carayas, Mexico, where you have to rent a private villa to participate in the festival, and the ticket price is like $1,800 or something like that. And, it's this Lux Fest that people like Elon Musk go to. And yeah, it's
nice.
Or supposedly, I don't know. And so, that's one.
I feel like these luxury festivals wouldn't have the type of music I'd want to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of deep house, I think.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm going to do a lot of drugs, but I want a particular type of music.
What kind of music?
Not the fest. I like the more granola crunchy festivals, I think, would be more my speed.
Yeah, like a little string cheese incident.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly like that. So yeah, no, I'm a big.
All right, Chamber, this is a good spot to go into that next segment. Then we're going to skip some news. We'll go right into that next segment. I'm going to let you lead it off here. So we're talking what would be Marc's dream music festival. So Chamber, take the go at it. At leading it here.
I had lovingly called it the Ice Festival, which is spelled with a Y.
That's what Ja wants to call his new festival.
Is that right? Okay, well we're gonna patent pen that thing.
Yeah, we should definitely throw a copyright on that now.
Ice Festival with a Y.
And we're also gonna have a token.
That's right. That's where you guys went wrong. Tokenize the festival. But obviously, like you'd mentioned, you're having maybe some PTSD while watching the documentaries. Perfect world. You get to you have unlimited funds. You don't have to fleece anybody for them. Where would you have your perfect music festival? Who would be there? And, who are some of the influencers, that you would use to help promote it?
This question's ridiculous.
I'm a ridiculous person.
I love it. Where would all the budget in the world, all of the
money is no,
Bitcoin is at $1 million a coin.
Great.
You have
you found Satoshi's magic wallet.
Let's see. I think that I would hold the festival in Florianopolis, Brazil. I already tried to create my dream festival. It was called 90s Fest.
I was going to say, was it called 90s Fest?
It was basically just, the problem with 90s Fest was I couldn't convince the acts that I really wanted to perform under the name 90s Fest because they don't want to be considered 90s acts.
Who are some of those names?
Acts of my childhood, man, like Third Eye Blind, Bush, Smashing Pumpkins.
How are they not self-aware enough that this is 90s music?
They're
artists. They have egos.
They're artists. They have new albums.
Third Eye Blind, though. Come on, that's
Chumbawamba. We talk about just to come out for one song.
we have a torrid history with Chumbawamba. We used a clip of their song in one of our episodes for 2 seconds.
I love so many of their deep cuts too.
Yeah, they got us flagged on YouTube.
Oh my god, of course, man. They have to make
which means Chumbawamba's out there listening to us somewhere.
Yeah.
Hey, Chumbawamba, if you're listening, you guys should have done 90s Fest in New York. We tried to book them.
So that was it? It was because they didn't want to be billed as 90s bands?
A lot of acts, it was this kind of challenge. They didn't want to be billed as 90s bands, And so we had kind of our tier 1 targets and then our tier 2 targets. And, we never really secured one of the biggest. TLC was the closest we got.
Oh.
They were making a comeback. They just released a new album. We did that show in Columbus, Ohio. That was a good one. Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls.
Oh, sure. I just introduced my 5-year-old to TLC. We were listening.
It's a good lesson for ICO investors.
So good. Right.
I think both of their songs, hashtag no scrubs, hashtag don't go chasing waterfalls. Those are our hashtags for the episode.
That's Brecky's new video he's going to do with voiceovers.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I just think there's something about nostalgia that's really powerful. And I wanted to go back to being a kid again.
Nostalgia is like the reverse FOMO.
Exactly. It's I did it, so let's do it again. It's such a good point. It was the opposite of Fyre because it was intentionally cheesy. It wasn't cool.
Right. Exactly.
We had Nickelodeon sliming people. That was fun.
That's awesome.
What influencers? Pauly Shore would have to promote it. He was a host.
Like Bill Nye, maybe?
Bill Nye would be great.
That'd be a good...
a science segment. I'd love to have Britney Spears promote it,
Yes.
Yeah.
Ja Rule could still promote it.
We almost booked Ja Rule. I was still doing 90s Fest when I would consult.
He was late 90s, I think, right?
We were trying to get Ja to perform at 90s Fest after Fyre. And then, of course, Fyre happened and we didn't want much to do with him. But, yeah, poor Ja. I know people, want to hate on him, but I don't think he had any clue. He came down to the island and it was all
Really? I was going to ask that, and I didn't know if he...
it was just... He was a hype man. I don't think he knew. That's how I feel about it, at least.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
That's interesting.
Of course, then they caught him, in the Fyre, phone call, being like, "It's not fraud, it's false advertising." And
right, exactly.
Like, dude,
well, I think that alone, I think that statement alone shows how little he really knew. He doesn't know the difference between fraud and false advertisement.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure he later figured it out, but yeah.
I've been trying to get a pair of his sunglasses that he wears.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what they are. I love those sunglasses, those Ja Rule sunglasses.
Yeah, but I think a festival in Brazil would be cool. I love Brazilian.
A '90s festival in Brazil.
Yeah,
with
Pauly Shore,
Britney Spears, and Bill Nye as social influencers.
Yes,
that's amazing.
Exactly. And Hootie and the Blowfish reunion.
Oh yeah,
oh my god, that would be so big. Speaking of crunchy,
that's a great one.
Yeah, that's so good.
Man, 90s Fest sounds baller. I would have totally been into that.
90s Fest was so fun, man. It was one of that day in New York, the first one we did, was like one of the greatest days of my life. It was awesome.
We had a music festival in my hometown here, and it wasn't a 90s fest, but it was definitely like 90s band. I don't know what they called it. Maybe they called it 90s Fest. I don't know. But it was like who sings like Santa Monica? Remember back in the day?
Sheryl Crow?
No. We had the Offspring was here.
Oh, nice. Bad Habit.
Who else was it? But yeah, Offspring was real good.
Sublime with Rome.
Sublime. I saw them. I was a big Sublime fan when I was a kid, and then when this new Rome guy came, I'm like, I don't like it when they change.
I think Bad Fish, the cover band, is better than Sublime with Rome.
100%. 100%.
Ooh, Green Day. Green Day would be so cool. I remember Dookie was like my first album that I was, thinking about girls. That was like.
Is that the one where they had the secret track at the end?
Yeah,
I think so.
It was a tape. They all used to have a secret track.
Yeah, that sounds right. No, I think mine was 16 Stone by Bush. That was my first I'm like, I see what this guy's doing, and the girls are going out like this guy. I'm like, I'm going to start doing some of this stuff. That's when I learned how to start play guitar.
You were so close to getting Bush. Yeah, Glycerine, that's like the easiest song on the guitar. It's a great way to impress.
That stuff, that helped me through. That helped me through some times in grade school and high school.
I would like to do One Hit Wonder Fest.
Yes.
That would be great.
Yes.
But each band would only come up and do, their one hit wonder song, maybe plus one.
Plus a deep cut.
Yeah, plus their personal favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something we explored. I don't think we wanted to call it One Hit Wonders. I think the artist would have been very upset.
Right, of course.
It was called like the Hits Stage or something. One backing DJ, and then people come up and do their track, like LFO or.
Oh my God!
Who else? We had Coolio perform actually.
Really?
He had like 3 songs, so not one hit. I remember for the first 90s Fest, we were front page of Reddit because somebody spilled a beer on Coolio while taking a picture, and it was like this picture of this girl spilling a beer on Coolio.
That's awesome.
It was great.
All right, Chamber, what is our next musical Fyre segment / crypto segment here that we got?
I call this one Crypto Switcheroo. And in this segment, I usually just write things down quickly, and I like switcheroo. I like the sound of that one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take people from the documentary. And you just give their crypto equivalent, whether it's people that are in charge of major projects, people that are on Twitter, whatever you want to do, but crypto related. We'll start with, let's start with Ja Rule. Let's start with Ja.
Oh my God,
this is gonna be good.
I'm gonna make no friends by doing this. All right. Roger Ver is Ja Rule.
Wow, all right. I like that.
He's the hype man. He did the Bitcoin Cash thing, then he went and did another fork. So that's like his ICE festival.
This is great.
I like it. That's a good one. I was thinking hard on this one. Bunch, you have you agree with that one?
I want to know who.
He did the Mt. Gox video after Mt. Gox, or right when he said something about, the funds are safe.
Yep.
That's like Ja Rule saying it's not fraud.
That's a good point. That's the right answer. All right, well let's do Billy. Let's do Billy McFarlane.
Oh my God, what's the BitConnects guy's name?
That's it, Carlos Matos.
Carlos Matos. Yeah, that's Billy.
See, I was thinking more Trayvon. I feel like Carlos didn't know what he was doing, and I felt like Trayvon knew what he was doing.
All right, then maybe it's Trayvon.
Also,
there might be some other Billies out there, by the way.
There could be hiding in plain sight. Do we know if Billy McFarland's related to Seth MacFarlane? Because they kind of have they have a similar look going about them. I'm looking at a picture of Billy right now. I'm like,
they kind of do,
right? Like,
no,
I'm not alone on that one.
Not, I don't know if they're related, so I'm not going to comment on that. I don't know if they're related. You could ask Seth. You could tweet at
Uncle Seth. Can you give me some money? I want to make a new. New festival.
I mean, there was an article apparently about Billy that he's like in jail and he's got a crew and like 5 businesses running right now.
Oh,
does that? God. Yeah, that doesn't shock me.
He's selling tickets. That
he's doing something. They've screened the documentary. He's like a hero in there, I hear.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah. I mean that tracks though. Like his personality is
he's a charmer.
He lives on the. He's like a tightrope walker. You know what I mean? You could tell like. It's ready to collapse on either side at any time, but he's going down that line,
walking on the razor's edge.
That's right.
Let's see who else.
Jet Chamber, you got any more?
Yeah, let's do.
Oh no.
I forget. Yeah. Who was the lady in charge of food? Because I want to give her a proper shout out. I felt.
Oh, Marianne. Yeah, Marianne.
That one I really felt. I'm like, oh.
That one hit you in the feels.
Right in the feels.
Good news on Marianne. One of the reasons I actually agreed to do this documentary because, I didn't have to associate with myself with Fyre publicly. And a couple of others on the production staff, like Marc and Andy, decided to do it was because we wanted to raise awareness for the people that weren't paid. And we created this GoFundMe account for Marianne. She was owed, I think she said, she was in debt like 50-something thousand, but she was owed like 120,000 from the festival gross. And she, through this GoFundMe, has gotten $200,000.
Really?
So Marianne, she's been repaid in full plus. And we're hoping that she'll donate the excess to another GoFundMe that we started for the workers in partnership with the Exuma Foundation, which is a non-for-profit that does work on the island. And we're raising money for them right now as well. So some positive things came out of this. But Marianne is basically the ICO investor in the crypto world who got in it in January 1st, 2018.
Oh,
that's
shout out to Marianne.
Get those, let's get those GoFundMes and we'll link them out tomorrow for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the Marianne's done, so I'll send you the other one.
Okay, good. Okay, awesome, last definitely. One. I only have one left.
Okay. Oh no, I know who it's going to be.
You know who it's going to be.
I can't think of who this would be in the crypto world.
I got to know who Andy is.
I was just, of course. Who's always willing to take one for the team in the crypto space?
100% committed.
I don't know. Committed. He's one of a kind.
You got any thoughts on that one?
Man, I'm not sure.
Because it's almost like a compliment. It's not disparaging.
I mean, it is a compliment. Yeah. The dude would do anything for crypto. I mean, there's plenty of them out there.
I mean, I don't want to offend.
There's so many names I want to throw out as complimentary.
It's as a compliment if we're like cutting out.
Right. Cutting out the
act.
Yeah,
cutting out the act of the water.
We're only talking on the commitment
level and the intention. I would Pomp is like, the biggest guy in the space for promoting Bitcoin.
Yeah.
No one's more committed to Bitcoin than Pomp.
Pomp is the
He's out there. Crypto. Yeah, I mean, Pomp, don't kill me, man. He's also jacked and it's okay. Don't kill me. Only for commitment level.
For commitment, yeah, that's what we're saying.
I want to know who would be Delroy the bartender. He was one of my favorites. Where he just looks at the camera. And he's like, "Who the fuck orders $2 million worth of booze?"
He's the voice of reason of crypto.
Hold on. But I was going to say Cynthia would be the other one. Cynthia would be ordering the $2 million worth of booze.
Oh my god! The voice of reason in the crypto space is probably who was going against ICOs from the start, right?
Oh yeah,
I wasn't listening to them.
Larry Chermak at the Block. I don't know. He could be a good one. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's plenty of people.
That's awesome.
My wife. It's my wife, actually.
It's the multi-coin guys. You know, they're the voice of reason.
Well, thanks for playing along with us.
That's
I know
terrific.
you probably have just been, I know you're probably getting bombarded with Fyre stuff, but I think we tried to do a good job of showcasing your crypto intelligence as well. And I think, like Chambers said, most people will be very impressed for sure. So we definitely appreciate your time and playing along with us with some silly Fyre games.
Oh, no, it was really fun, man. I hope, hopefully people like it, and we can talk about other things besides Fyre down the line.
Definitely. Right. We'll definitely have you back on for sure. And then, we also want to give you a, opportunity to talk about anything that you're working on. Where can people find you? Who do you want to hear from? Things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Wavemaker Genesis under Wave Financial, looking for, the top projects in the space that are building. So if you're building something, please reach out. We have email available on the website, wavegp.com. Always looking to connect with some of the brightest minds in the space that are actually heads down building as far as investment goes. Otherwise, that's it. I'm Marc Weinstein on Twitter. Talk about some crypto stuff there. And yeah, that's it. I mean, we're doing some interesting things otherwise, but mostly focused on institutions. So trying to bring more non-crypto native people into the space.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, like I said, Marc, we really appreciate your time. We had a lot of fun. Hopefully you did as well. This will be coming out on Thursday, so everybody out there, keep your eyes down for this. And that's it. Chamber, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. I had a blast. I thought that was nice to see the participation.
Thank you guys so much. That was really fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, as always, until next time, don't get wrecked, and that is financial advice.